It's Stevivor's Friendly Fire Show, episode 209 for the end of August Gamescom 2022. That's the right year. I always write 2020 now. I don't know. Is that a thing that only I do, or is that a you thing as well?
No, I'm used to the year, but I think that 2019 was last year. So
we're there in
similar
spirit. I'm one of your co-hosts, Steve Wright, and joining me, of course, you've heard him already, Ben Salter. Hello, Ben. It's the day of opening night live, which is really opening very early morning live in Australia.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that, obviously, but we'll get there in a second. First, because everyone is dying to know, please tell me about your NBN experience. You have super fast internet now, right?
Well, I should have done. I had a man came and he said he's going to check that my house can easily get the fiber upgrade. They just pull the thing in through the conduit or whatever they need to do, and that seemed to be all good. And 2 business days before my scheduled appointment, I get a text at like 11 p.m. saying NBN has advised they have an issue on their network and your scheduled whatever can't go ahead. And then a man called me a few days later saying he's from NBN and he's going to just go have a look at my house and they might be able to just fix it straight away. And then it poured down with rain. No man ever turned up, and I haven't heard anything since. So I am not in a fiber connected house.
So you only have like 100 megabits down. That's who can live? Who can live in such a horrid state of affairs?
Yeah. Well, hopefully
you're not happy with this, and I'm poking fun, and I will stop now. I'm sorry.
This is a classic NBN experience. Every time I've had a tech come over, they've cancelled. There's been a problem. Something hasn't worked. This is like the 4th house I've needed them to do something. Although this one I don't need them to actually do anything because I have internet. The others I didn't. So yeah, it's never really worked out. I didn't think it was going to be smooth, and I was unfortunately right.
Well, it can only get better from here, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's a bonus if it happens. Put it that way.
Okay, well, good. I don't know if it's going to make you feel any better, but this is my day. Well, not even day, like last week or so. I've just come off that excruciating back pain where I could barely move. We had 3 weeks off, that being my hockey team that I play on. And to make up for that 3-week break with like school holidays and stuff, we had 3 games over the course of 6 days. And we usually have 1 game per week. So like that's already like killing me for like in terms of physical fitness and stuff, but also just because like my back is not great. But the last game we had was last night at 10:30, which meant I got home at about 1 o'clock. So I got approximately 15 minutes of sleep by the time I stopped being wired and had to wake up for Gamescom, which we will talk about in a second. And then Gamescom went till about 6. And I slept for maybe another hour or so, and I've been up since. So,
and you're still here for the show. So, what commitment? Still turned up for the show that we do weekly now. So you had to be here. No way we could possibly postpone, and you're here. And now we can talk about all the wonderful things you saw in that 2 hours because I did not watch it. I skimmed the highlights on Stevivor this morning. Didn't even look at any recap videos because it didn't seem like there was that much. But we called it. We called it beforehand. We said, lower your expectations. And with those low expectations, I think it was okay.
Yes. Just quickly for the video people, do you see I'm drinking a proper Peroni, like an Italy Peroni, like just trying to get into the groove of Italy? Yeah.
We've totally off topic straight away. We live in an area that's very Italian, originally settled by Italian immigrants.
Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of like Italian supermarkets, and like every Friday or something, they get or they sell the proper Peroni for actually quite cheap, like way cheaper than Dan Murphy's. And they have like a wine lady who tells you about all the wine. And she's always like, if you want the Peroni, buy it like quick because the tradies will come in at about like 4 o'clock and just clear them out. Oh. So good tip.
In like the 3-packs, or is it like more?
You can get the 3-packs or like whatever the equivalent of a case is.
Because these are in the 3-packs. Fancy. We're very cultured in the Cheltenham BWS. I am digressing already. Gamescom was, like you were saying, it was like the Summer Game Fest of earlier this year, in terms of overly long, full of samey games where they're like all spacey games, or they're all like Souls-like games, or they're all like
Yeah.
fantasy-esque games where they all sort of bleed into one another, and you'd be hard pressed to kind of identify which was which if you were given clips without titles, I think. So
Yeah.
you definitely made the right decision in sleeping in. So I'm jealous. But I guess we just get straight into probably the biggest piece of news is not even a game. I think it's the peripheral, which has been rumored for a while. It's the PlayStation. Well, it is the PlayStation, but it's the DualSense Edge, which is essentially the PlayStation Elite controller. It has three different joystick thumbstick things with like concave or height or that kind of thing. It has the two extra buttons on the back, which you can kind of already get with that attachment that they made for,
That was
I think, the Dual Shock, not the Dual Sense.
Yeah, that's all I want. That bit. Anyway.
Well, we'll talk about those because I don't think those are as nice as the paddle system on the Elite. But it's basically like the Xbox Elite, but in the DualSense version, it has profiles with an on controller button that makes you or lets you select different profiles. Not that I've ever used that on the Elite controller. Other swappable things. It's basically the Elite, but it's a DualSense.
Very similar.
Yeah,
And it's also competing with the Scuff controllers, which are even more expensive than the Elite, like that $300 or $400. So that's probably the market that it's in. Worthwhile. Like I use my Elite probably less now than I used to. There was a time when I would only use that and the Elite 2, which is the better version. But the DualSense Edge has something that neither Elite has, which is a share button, and that is a big part of why I've stopped using my Elite. In that a lot of the games I played recently on Xbox are to review or talk about, or I want to capture something, and it's just too hard to use the Elite to do whatever nonsense I got to do. So, not to complain yet again, but Xbox, we need the Elite 3. PlayStation, good job doing your Pro Controller, because it has been what they've been missing, right? Like it suits their audience probably better than the Xbox audience. So, a little surprised they didn't do it earlier.
yeah. We don't know the price. We don't know the release date. But in the copy for the Edge on the PlayStation blog, they do refer to like playing God of War Ragnarok. So I frankly wouldn't be surprised if it would be timed in a similar window. So I'm thinking November of this year. Kind of their like big Christmas thing alongside Ragnarok.
So a normal controller is 110, which is actually less than a game. I think they're 110, less than a game, which is 125 for a first-party PlayStation game. So the Elite 2 is 250. I would say this will be similar to that.
Yeah.
I can't see it being much cheaper.
I was gonna go like 300, but I thought the Elite 2 was 300. If it's cheaper, then like yeah, they're gonna position it, and like that. There's nothing wrong. Competition leads to innovation, and if you're a little bit behind, you're gonna like try to get up there and then try to innovate a bit higher, and that forces the competition to do the same. So I would be surprised if Sony didn't put this very Elite similar peripheral at a competitive price to Xbox's version. Which maybe will, lead Microsoft to maybe push out that Elite 3 a little bit sooner than they might have, and then you have your share button. And either console owner is happy because they're getting like the elitist controller ever.
One that doesn't break as much. So like the Elite 1 had loads of quality issues. The Elite 2 is better, but it still has problems. Like for a $250 controller, it's not well made enough, not durable enough, doesn't last long enough. And it's not like one thing that goes wrong. There's a bunch of things that go wrong in it. It's different for everyone. It's not good enough, really. So that's why I want the Elite 3 as well.
I hardly ever break a controller. I will, like, I did screw up the rubber grips on the Elite itself, but that was after, like, probably, no, it was only a year. But I get a bunch of use out of my controllers. I sometimes will get, like, the joystick drift in a regular controller. But that all being said, like, my 13-year-old nephew goes through about 4 controllers a year, and I don't know how.
Really?
But I don't know if I'm the exception to the rule or if he's the exception to the rule.
No, he's the exception. Besides the 2 Elites or the 4 Elites, whatever I had that had the rubber peel off and then like the bumper button break, I've never had a controller break. I think like my 360 controllers, which were well loved, started to get like the thumbsticks wear away a little bit. Shane, previously on the Friendly Fire show, I know he had uh, his DualShock 4 like thumbsticks totally worn away because he played so much Destiny. And so he didn't want to buy a new controller. He didn't really use his Xbox controller at that point. So he took the sticks out of the Xbox, put them in the DualShock. He said, "Good as new." I remember. I don't know which episode this is in. A listener may do, but he came and told us all about it. And he said he's made the best controller ever because he actually liked the Xbox sticks better, but he preferred the PlayStation layout. And he said he's made the best controller. So that was some consumer advice on the Friendly Fire Show in about 2014. Don't do that.
I'm talking about my husband again. He has long thumbnails. He kind of like leaves them a little bit longer than other fingernails for some reason. And he will go and kind of like dig into the top of the thumbstick to drive sometimes. And like the weird Elite controller that I got from Telstra right out of the pack that had like the same kind of markings, like I was almost confused as if my husband had done it, but no, because that's the beauty of these Elite controllers or the Edge controllers. You can go and buy for like $20, like a bag of joystick tops. So like Matt had done that to his legitimately, but I threw them out and I bought new ones. So that's kind of the good thing about that. Like some parts are replaceable, some parts aren't. But theoretically, like you invest a little bit more at the start to get this fancier controller, and maybe there's a little bit of upkeep, but it's not like you have to buy, like my nephew seems to make me do for him because I'm that idiot uncle, like 4 controllers a year, which would be $400 as compared to the $250 plus a little bit of maintenance. So
it's going to be a crazy expensive controller that could be cheaper if you wear out your control sticks in a ridiculously quick manner. That's our hot tip. Anyway, what else did we have?
There wasn't a lot, to be honest. Hogwarts Legacy is sort of contentious. There's a lot of stuff around J.K. Rowling, and we're going to leave that aside for now. But like if you go to any post that we write about it, it's there. So don't say I'm not doing the due diligence.
She didn't make the game.
Exactly. Fittingly enough, I guess this new trailer that we saw for Hogwarts Legacy was all about the dark side of what could happen, and it kind of shows you what you'll do as a character if you align with wizards or female wizards. What do they call them? Witches. Yes, that's right. It's been a day. Who align with like the dark arts. So like the theoretically short forming it, the Slytherins of the world. And I forget the dude's name, but people were like pretty clued into who he was. So it's probably in some sort of Potter lore. There is like a nefarious evil dude who wants you to bring zombies back to life and use Crucio and all that kind of stuff. So it was surprising to me in that I thought it was kind of going to be a little like, it's like any of those EA Harry Potter games where it's kind of just like, I'm running around Hogwarts and Wingardium Leviosa. So it's surprising.
They pumped out so many of those. They were like one a year, and they had like a game version and like a last gen version and like the next gen version at the time. Like they were putting out like 4 versions a year. Crazy.
So, did you have a chance to see that particular trailer?
I saw some, like, you know when you're skimming Twitter and it autoplays a bit, but you don't watch it? That's
close enough.
That's probably the extent of my interest in this game. I think I will play it. Like, I think it's cool enough. Like, the world of something like Harry Potter that you can kind of do stuff in that's not Harry Potter. No offense to you, Daniel Radcliffe, but like, just the world is way more interesting than what we've got out of that so far because it's been so focused on one child. There's a lot more there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll probably play it. We might as well very quickly detour and go to this week in delays because delayed is Hogwarts. What is it even called? Hogwarts Legacy.
Legacy.
It was leaving a legacy because it was meant to be out this year, but it's now coming in February 2023. It was already delayed though. It was meant to come out 2021. So many delays. I think it's quite surprising in terms of the delays we've seen in that this is like it's got the Harry Potter name. It would have sold like crazy ahead of Christmas if it came out in November, even December. So to get those extra like 2 or 3 months, it can't be in that good of a way that they think that's going to make all the difference. Like it's odd.
I still think it'll sell. Like with all the controversy, even there, it's going to sell like hotcakes. Like people love Harry Potter. Like it's a weird love-hate thing for me because like I'm probably older than the average Harry Potter reader would have been. Like even like probably we were reading it at the same time, but I've got a number of years on you. But I was like kind of new to the country and I had a whole bunch of train rides because I was like living an hour away from Melbourne but working in Melbourne. So like the train ride was just reading Harry Potter until I caught up to, I think I had to catch up to get to book 5 or 6. And then like it was just like, yeah, it was a lovely fantasy world that a lot of people can identify with and see themselves in. It would be amazing if the author would be happier with everyone identifying with it, but that's beside the point.
For her to decide.
Adjacently, I guess this week in not delays is Gotham Knights, which for some reason got bumped up by either 4 or 5 days. I can't do math at this point. It's the 21st now of October. It was 4 days because it was coming out on the 25th of October. I don't know why. Like, what's the 4-day difference mean?
Super unusual in the year of delays. I have no idea. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. Unless, like, is there something else coming out on its original release date? That might be why. But, like, we're so used to seeing, like, the games coming out on this day, but if you pre-order or you buy the super fancy deluxe edition, play 3 days early or something. Microsoft is super guilty of that.
Yes.
Activision...
Hogwarts is doing that. Hogwarts Legacy gives you 72 hours of early access, I think, with the whatever edition.
So, but it's not doing that. It's just moving the release date forward. So... unusual.
Is it just to get more out of the way of Ragnarok? So something that was leaked before Gamescom happened was the release date of Sonic Frontiers, which is the 8th, I believe, of November, which is like, it's whatever day it is, it's one day before God of War Ragnarok. So like clearly someone at Sega either just doesn't care or is extremely confident. And I guess if you're the 25th of October or the 21st of October, that's 4 extra days before God of War Ragnarok comes out than you had before. And maybe that makes a difference in some sort of weird marketing thing that's been analyzed by a lot of people in America.
Maybe. It's got to be something to do with that. I would have thought if you're going to get out of the way of something, you at least go like 2 weeks out of the way. But it's not quite ready enough. Well, it's gone gold, right? So it's like it's done enough to be printed now.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Well, something went gold. Not a fact-based show. I think that was it. The only other game I noticed that did get a date that we didn't have before is Return of Monkey Island. It's coming in September, which is cool, which means I've now got a couple of weeks to play Monkey Island 2. As mentioned on the show, I played the first one a few weeks ago. Good game. And they work well on Series X, so I'm going to play the second one. And
off the top of my head, it's the 19th of September, which might be wrong, but it's whatever Talk Like a Pirate Day is.
Yeah.
Because har har har. R.
And there was another pirate game announced, so much so that I can't even remember what it was called. It was like
Tortega? Something like
whatever. The subtitle was like A Pirate's Life.
It looked like Sea of Thieves until... I thought it was Sea of Thieves until... like, because that was a lot... That was another theme of Gamescom opening night live. It was like, here's a CG trailer for like 75% of the presentation, and then it will like... kind of like that Alien game that you weren't sure what it was at Summer Game Fest. It's like, here's a CG trailer of something happening, and then like, here's this... oh, it's a 3/4 down top view like puzzle game. Like, what? Oh, okay. That's and that was that other pirate game. Anyway,
well, my question is, why do we have that? Like, with Sea of Thieves has dominated. Like, it's made something out of its thing there, and it's a cartoony pirate game. This looked kind of similar, pretty similar actually. And then we've got Skull and Bones, which I don't even know what that's trying to be. It's definitely going to be not a single player game. They've already said.
A release for investors to tick off the box that yes, this was released.
Now, see, those two I can see coexisting because they got announced at the same time. Skull and Bones totally fell away, and Sea of Thieves, when it launched, to be fair, didn't really have that much content, and people fell away. But over the past 5-6 years, it's really built up into something which has a pretty good community, pretty strong community around it. Strange choice to then now someone else could be like, here's my indie pirate game. Like, you're really up against this one that's quite established. Anyway,
it does take a lot of time for things to come out, and we've already had with Summer Game Fest like this deluge of space games, and there were still more space games. They weren't as like dead spacey as we saw at Summer Game Fest, but there's like Homeworld 3, which is like a what's the word I want? Is that how it is? The
Triple X
strategy, like an RTS kind of thing.
XCOM.
Yeah, like Exterminate. I think Triple X is right, not the porn one. The other term.
Maybe.
I'm probably wrong. That doesn't seem right. Anyway, and there was one from Prime Matter, which I forget the name of it. Scar Abroad. I don't know, something like that. There was a whole
I'm
bunch
gonna
of
just
space
say
games. There was a whole bunch of like Souls-like things.
all of the
Lords of the
games are now
Fallen got rebooted. There's
Lords of the
Atlas
Fallen.
something from I think Deck 13. Like that's the problem. They're all so similar. It's like I don't know. I think I got the right one when I'm trying to describe something.
They all
Kind
have
of depressing.
tricky names to remember, and that's the problem. Like the Souls game is Life of P, which I've had to write down as like that's the Souls-like one, and we might be interested now that you and I are Souls people, and we're all over that. We wouldn't have been last Gamescom, but we're into it now. But like
Did you see the trailer
it's
for
so
that one though?
samey.
It's really good. P
Yeah,
is
I
for Pinocchio. Like it's a weird like. Why would you make a Soulsborne, Souls-like, whatever you want to call it, based on Pinocchio?
at least it's
It's
different. But like I don't like the name. Too hard to remember because it's like it's gone too simple. Anyway,
it's like Life of Pi or Life of
yeah, that's what
or
I
like
keep
Liza
thinking it is.
Minnelli. I don't know. I keep going to weird places, but so
It's
did you see the trailer? It looks like
yep.
it looks good. It looks gorgeous. It has that kind of like Soulsborne. It kind of like Bloodborne to me. I think there's like a weird
Yeah, which is the Souls game I still don't like.
yeah.
Um, but I with any of these type of games to play them. So like secretly like Jedi Fallen Order I played before I was a Souls person, before my Elden Ring days, and I really liked it. And I didn't even realize that it was kind of following that formula in a different way. Like it's not the same, but it learned from it and it tried to follow it in a more mainstream way. I think I need to play them to really like. It's the type of genre in which I can't watch and think, oh, that looks good. I'll enjoy it. Like Elden Ring, when watching someone else play it, I thought it looked awful. Um, yeah, I think I need to play it. Bloodborne, I played, didn't like. Sekiro, I kind of liked a bit more, but didn't really get into. And I've only just started getting into Dark Souls 3. So like, I need to try them to actually get into them.
Don't play Dark Souls 2. We've talked about this. The other thing that I think is important to talk about is High on Life because I was like really excited for it. And I don't know if you've watched it was like probably a 10-minute, I'd say, boss battle sequence.
Yeah.
I went from being like super excited about High on Life to really not excited at all about High on Life. And I don't know, like, I don't want to tell you what I think yet. I want to kind of get what your take on it was if you saw it.
I think so. When it was shown at not E3 this year, like it was very like, oh, that could be cool. Like it's something a bit quirky on the first-person shooter genre. It's going to be a little bit different and probably worth trying because it's on Game Pass. Like, and I still think that's true. Watching someone actually play more of the game, I think it will be hard to play. It's kind of like trying to watch Ricky Gervais in The Office. Like I think this is interesting, but it's like it's too cringy that I can't watch. And I kind of feel like it'll wear thin pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
like having your gun just basically that's the premise. Your gun just makes jokes at you the whole time, essentially. Your toy gun, whatever creature it is. Um, and yeah, just I think it will wear thin, which is why it's a good Game Pass game. You can try without having to commit too much to it. And I think a good public service announcement for any subscription game is you don't have to play them if you're not that interested. It's not like if you outlay $100 on a game, you're somewhat committed to giving it a proper try. If you've got a game on a sub-service and you're not into it, you can just move on. You don't have to play it just because it's a big name and you think this is worth playing because it's exclusive. And I don't want to judge this too early, but I feel like it's going to be in that basket.
And you can also head to Stevivor.com for your list of things coming and going from those subscription programs. So if you do like playing it, but only in very short spurts, we can give you a heads up as to when it will stop being free, and you need to either give up or finish it.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it. I think it's weird. It looked really quirky and fun, but I thought it was like I feel like I thought that was because it was an entire package, and this now seems to be like the talking gun game with some kind of like simple gameplay mechanics. Like you had to shoot a thing and hide behind a box and use like a grapple. And that seems to me like it was like Journey to the Strange Planet, which was a good game. But like once you stop playing that and you go back in, you're like, there's so many like weird, quirky things. I don't know how to tether and switch and do this and do that. And I am the type of person who I don't enjoy like the Saints Row humor. I don't enjoy the Borderlands humor. I thought I was going to like the humor in this, but like watching that 5 to 10 minute gameplay boss battle, I'm just like, I am already not feeling the humor in this anymore, and I hope it's not like this the whole way through. I hope this boss battle is kind of like a
Yeah.
very specific segment, and it's different. I do love Rick and Morty, and I like Lower Decks is not, it's not Justin Roiland, but it's like the same vein, and it's like I like that kind of take on things, but like this just did not hit with me at all, to the point where I just was like, I was done probably like a minute in. I'm like, I get this, and if this is what it is for the next however long this goes, I don't want it. And that was like a constant monotone experience for me, and that's unfortunate. I hope I'm just being too critical. I hope there's more to it, but like I'm not as enthused as I was before, I'd have to say.
I think we'll have to wait and see, but similar boat.
Anything else from Gamescom from you before I get into like all of the stuff I've been preoccupying myself with for the last fortnight?
I think pretty much it's we knew it was going to be a low bar this year. There's like nothing to announce essentially. But I do think it's disappointing that the three major shows, if you include the Game Awards, are all done by the same company and even the same host, and that they all have the same feel, the same theme. They seem to have the same connection, so there's always going to be the same similar studios there.
Here's Hideo Kojima. He's got a podcast. We'll give him 10 minutes.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And then your major players, so like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, are not really there at any of them anymore. They do their own things. And that's how it used to be. Like you'd have a press conference each for the major publishers, and they were often shorter, and they often had a lot of filler in them, but they gave more time to the big hits that you wanted to see. And this year we haven't had those major publishers at either conference really. I mean, Xbox was at not E3, but yeah, and it's to have them all kind of combined into like one of like we'll do a replacement show. It's not going to have any of those in it. It's always going to get, not to criticize any of these games, but it's going to get smaller scale titles, which are probably not as impressive to show in that format. They might be great games, but it doesn't really suit them that much, and they wouldn't have made it had Xbox and PlayStation had stuff to fill the time, and they want it to be there. And yeah, it's imagine how much better it would have been if you had, say, Keeley and his team do Summer Game Fest, and then someone totally different, unrelated, did this show, someone European perhaps even for Gamescom. And then like they have different connections, different people they partner with, different hosting style, different production style, probably get a bunch of different stuff, and it would feel different. They feel too similar as someone sitting at home now, which is kind of diminishes both of them.
Oh yeah. The presentation for one was like twice as long as it needed to be, which was super unfortunate, because like the first hour honestly didn't feel like it was taking that long, but the second hour just like crept by. The other weird thing is they had like Jeff Keighley was there, and like I think he's like sort of beholden to the Gamescom people, like Colin S, or I think it's called Colin S, or whatever the governing body. It's like the ESA in America. So they would keep cutting to this like German woman, like, and Jeff was like straight to the camera, teleprompter, hello, I'm reading my lines, like I'm doing this off the cuff, but like it's like right in front of me, and I can just look in the camera and know exactly what I'm saying. And this poor woman was just like reading off a card, definitely in like her second language, not in her native language. And it was just like and it was like Lucy O'Brien, who she put something on Twitter. I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't really think of it, but I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like this is like the Jeff Keighley like premium grade like experience, and this is like the poor like Gamescom like put her into this presentation like sub tier. Like she was amazing. It's not on her. It's like she had cue cards and she had to kind of like do it at a different tier, and that sucks for her. And that's kind of like that sums up the experience. And then they had these weird awards where it was like most anticipated PC and Xbox and PlayStation, and I think Metal Hellsinger was a nominee in the most anticipated every single platform. It was like, oh well, that's weird. It was all just very weird. The whole thing was weird. The ads were, I can't believe I'm saying this in a Jeff Keighley joint, the ads were like less intrusive than in past, but they were still very prevalent.
That's the main problem. That's why these shows exist, and that's why they're so long, because they need to sell. So yeah, it's always going to be too long for that purpose.
Yeah, but and like I get that there's a very subset of people who are like, Dead Island 2, oh my god, it was announced in 2014, it's coming back. Like, but that was the and one more thing. And I don't think a game that's been like rebooted like 4 times in almost 10 years is like the shining tentpole that you finish a presentation on.
Well, you tell us, because you got to see Dead Island 2 shortly before it was announced in Melbourne. Didn't even have to go to Germany for it.
Yes, I went to that instead of going to the Saints Row launch, and from what I'm sure we'll talk about with Saints Row in future, I made a good choice. Dead Island 2 it's oh god, it was Techland at the start, and they didn't want to do the sequel, or they couldn't do the sequel because they were doing Dying Light, which they've now done Dying Light 2. It went to Sumo Digital. It went to like 2 other developers, I think, and now it's with you can't just call it Dambuster, you have to call it Deep Silver Dambuster, because that's how I was going to say Koch Media. That's how PlayOn now works. They did, and I didn't realize this at the time. I spoke to a developer who I've met in person. It was like 2:30 in the morning in London, and he was talking to me via like Microsoft Teams. But I've met him in the past because he was a developer on Homeland: The Revolution, which Dambuster did. And I don't know if that terrifies you, because that game wasn't great. Thankfully, Dying Light 2, from what I played, it was like a 20-minute stint, is actually not Dying Light 2. Dead Island 2. Pretty good, actually. It's very melee dependent. There's guns and there's weapons with like long reach or short reach, and if you like charge your attack, you'll like basically blow through the skull of a zombie, and like they showed that a million times in the trailer. There's a lot of elemental stuff, so you can mix like electricity and water. There's like caustic acid, there's fire, and the big, I guess, selling point that Dambuster's trying to make is that everything is built on this flesh system. So they've procedurally generated like bodies of everything on the map. So skeletons, internal organs, skin, and if you melt something, like it'll melt realistically. If you dismember something, it's not just going to like cut to like model of zombie with arm cut off at elbow. It's going to cut it off wherever you impacted it. Like that's the premise. Like it was 20 minutes. I don't know if that's accurate enough or not, but it's a fun little sandbox. It's based in LA, which makes no sense to me because that is decidedly not an island. And they didn't want to talk about co-op. They didn't really want to talk about most of the 6 characters. We got to play as Amy, who is a sprinter with 2 like running prosthetic legs, like the really like bendy ones that you see like when they're doing sprinting. She's a sprinter. There's now we know from the trailer, there's that guy who was the focus of the trailer with the afro and like likes drinking a martini and killing things. Like it has character. I'm optimistic for it, but I'm not like super duper enthused for it. Does that make sense? Please tell me what you think, because I've talked for too long.
Well, I don't think anything. I haven't played it, so I have no idea. I do think you should be cautious for a game that has been in development so long, even though it's been rebooted several times. It's
so they started in 2018, from what they said. Sorry.
Yeah, which is still like how many games are in development, 8 years ago, and then they restart at some point and they turn out fantastically well. Some definitely, but there's also always going to be a Duke Nukem 3Ds which get rebooted like 4 times and then it's still terrible.
Well, and of late there's like the Halo Infinites of the world, which have probably been in development for 8 years.
Where is co-op?
Yeah, and didn't get rebooted and redone by someone, but like just weren't done enough. So like they've started in 2018. They said they've done it from scratch, and in this in this economy, in this development landscape, like is that scary? A good like we're not talking about it this week, but a good example of something kind of in the same vein is Saints Row, and that needed a couple more years, I'd say, of dev.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm glad to hear that it's promising at this point, because it's only good news.
Yes, you can check that preview. I'm English now. Check that preview out on the website, alongside the first of two that we're doing on New Tales of the Borderlands, which is like a Telltale-esque. It's not Telltale because Gearbox is doing it internally, but a very Telltale-esque visual novel. Pretty light on nitty-gritty details, but there's another gameplay reveal coming, timed for a PAX. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but too late I did. So keep an eye out on that. I think we should talk about that one when that second embargo lifts, if I'm being honest. We could definitely talk about Splatoon 3 right now, because if you've played Splatoon 2, Ben, you've basically played Splatoon 3.
Not surprising.
It's kind of disappointing, because like it's more of the same, but also it's more of the same with a 2-year commitment to content, and things like Salmon Run, if you're into that, which is the Horde mode, is always on now, as opposed to like being doled out in like rostered shifts. Were you into Splatoon?
No.
Well, then enough said.
I don't really get why this game exists. Like, it seems like it should have been on the next Switch, not now, but maybe that gives us an indication that there's no new console coming for at least 2 years.
Maybe. There's a lot of really good like party, like Xbox, PlayStation party kind of elements that are like baked into the UI, which Splatoon 2 doesn't have. I don't know how hard it would have been to have just updated Splatoon 2, but of course I guess if Nintendo's doing that, they're not selling you a $80, $100 game again. So it's not bad. Like it is enjoyable. If you like Splatoon, it's definitely worth the investment, because it's kind of like sort of iterating it, but not in a huge amount. That comes out on the 9th of September, so like Jay's going to review that when it is ready. Also, you can hit the website for Park Beyond, which is a theme park builder from Lambic Entertainment, which is from Germany, I think.
Sounds right.
And Pentiment, which is that Obsidian. It's like a Grounded. It's like the little like side project thing. What are you feeling about Pentiment? Are you like excited, interested?
Not at all, really. It was like, it looks like the little side project of a studio that I thought would be doing something bigger, which is not. It might be fine. Like, I think it'll be again a good Game Pass game. But it seems like maybe a small game that they had a small team working on because they wanted to get something out relatively quickly, and it might be good, but it hasn't really captured me yet.
That's it in a nutshell. It's decidedly not Obsidian. They're RPGs. I guess Grounded is... there's a bit of RPG in Grounded, I suppose. But this is another visual novel, like New Tales of the Borderlands, and like Telltale's Expanse, and like the Star Trek Resurgence game coming out, and like The Quarry, and like the Dark Pictures Devil in Me. Like it's big now. The preview was weird because it was hands off, and they like basically spent 45 minutes talking to you about how they were so influenced by the period, the 16th century, and the art and everything connected to that, where like I guess if you were really into that period, you'd be super enthused. But it's like we've gone and looked at all these art books to make the visual aesthetic look like either like a contemporary or modern for the time piece of artwork. And if people talk to you, they get a little speech bubble, and like the guy who's like using the Gutenberg printing press, his text will come in like he's setting it on a printing press, and other people will be like they're doing calligraphy, and it's all very interesting, but that amounts to like 2 seconds of like screen time where the text is coming in, and at a certain point, I think you're just wanting to like mash A to like get to the point and skip the like lovely animation of how the text comes in to just read the text, if that makes sense. So I don't know, like it's about a guy who's investigating 2 murders over the course of 25 years. I don't know what Pentiment is, really, if what I've just explained to you doesn't make it make sense to you.
You haven't sold it to me at all, so wait and see.
Exactly. We're going too long. I'm exhausted. What is up? You tell me.
That's it. That's it for Gamescom. I think we've had this week in delay, so we can just move it along to the end. That's it for this episode. We don't even need anything else. We're going to be back next week. We're going to talk Saints Row.
No, you have to do that. How do we talk? How do we find you on the internet, Ben?
You don't necessarily have to do that. You can find me very easily. No, if you Google me, you'll find a musician actually. So that could be better.
That's the no underscore Salter, right?
No, I think that's an old man.
Oh.
Anyway, yes, Ben_Salter. That's me on Twitter.
I'm SRightAU.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, sorry, I cut you off. We'll talk about Saints Row because we both played it, for better or for worse. If you want, you've got a week. So if you want to play a little bit and catch up to what we're going to say, we won't go too spoiler heavy. I guess it's only been out for a week or two at that point, but
no
figure
spoilers,
out how it goes.
You can easily finish it within a week. Let me put that out there right now. So depends how much side missions you want to play.
But should you even bother? Find out next week.